Hey everybody, welcome back! My name is Kurt, aka the Vitruvian Gamer, and we're entering the top 20 of my top 75 board games of all time, of the ones that I've played at this moment in time list of 2016. Well, the 2016 edition. These are not all games of 2016. That would be hard to make a top 100 because I don't think I played 100 new games. And it's a top 75, Kurt. Okay, anyway, let's get started with number 20. Number 20, brand new to the list, but not a new game of 2016. I'm not sure if I might have only bought it this year, but it has been a big success. Now, this is something special. This is a game for 2 to 4 players, and it's by HABA Games. Now, HABA, of course, is very well known for their children games. And when I talk about children games, I'm talking about games for children from starting from 2 years old. So really children's games, which are most of the time really good games for kids, of course. So when I ever get kids, I will have a lot of HABA games in my collection. The whole wall will be yellow because most of them are yellow boxes. Now, this game that I'm talking about is a family game because last year HABA started making family games, and this one is designed by Rudger Dorn. It is number 414 on Board Game Geek, and the game that I'm talking about is Karuba. Now, Karuba, I think it was nominated for Spiel des Jahres also this year, and I think it deserved that because it's a very good game. Now, it's very simple as well. So, first of all, it uses some kind of bingo mechanic, and that means each player has their own board, their player board, on which they have 4 different colored meeples and the same color of temples. Now, you just want to make routes with tiles to get those meeples to those same colored temples. And the way you do that is each player has the same tiles, and they are numbered from 1 to 36, I think, and one player will have their tiles face down in a stacks or in a bag, you can choose, and he's going to draw one tile, say the number, and each player takes their token, their tile with that number, and places it somewhere on the board wherever he wants. Now, cool thing about this, each player thinks differently, and at the end of the game, when everybody is placing after everyone has placed their tiles and make the routes to their temples, well, and you're trying to be on the temple first because then you find the artifact that is worth more points than if you arrived later. The game ends when someone reaches 4 temples or when all tiles have been used. Now, what was I saying? I was trying to say something. The cool thing is at the end of the game, each player board looks completely different because each player has some different strategies, ideas, and ways to, make a route to all those temples. You have to be careful because you don't want to block any routes, and it's something that happens quite often. There are only a few crossroads in the game, and also the tiles, you can also choose not to place them. You get to remove them, and depending on how many exits the roads have on the tile, that many spaces you can move one of your meeples. So that's also a balancing act that you have to do to, do I place this tile or do I put it aside so I can move one of my meeples? Very cool game, very fun, very simple to play. It is an awesome gateway game. We recently just played it with new people who never played board games before. I also did a live playthrough of this one together with Elise and some people on the chat. They joined us. A very cool game. My number 20, and I think it deserves this spot. Karuba. Number 19 is an old love because it was one of the first games Elise and I had in our collection. It is very popular. It is number 56 on Board Game Geek. It has been higher, I think. It has a reason why it dropped. I'll talk about that later. It's a game by CMON Games, plays for 2 to 4 players. Although there are expansions that, you can play this solo if you want. Perfectly possible as well. Designed by Leacock. It was my number 16 last year, so it dropped 3 places. Not a big deal. And the game is Pandemic. Now, this is the Dutch version, Pandemie, which is the same word, only another letter to end with. Sorry, and in this game you are, this team of scientists and all those different medics and quarantine specialists and stuff like that, and you're trying to stop these 4 viruses from spreading over the world. Now, this is a little bit abstract. You have board of the world. You have with different locations some of them are connected to each other, and your turn is very simple. You can move your meeple or your worker or well, your character on the board to an adjacent location. You can cure viruses, one of those diseases, and curing is very simple. You take 1 cube of those color of that virus away from the board back into the supply, and you're trying to actually do some set collection with cards that you draw at the end of your turn. If you have enough cards, you can go to a research station, give them the cards to the discard pile, and then you can cure one of the diseases, find a cure for it, and that means it gets easier to fix that disease. You can even eradicate it afterwards if you want, if you can, because it's not so simple. Now, this game is really cool, and I think the team is just awesome, but it still plays a little bit abstract, and that's why some cooperative games might be still higher on the list. This is an old and good one, Pandemic. A little bit danger of someone taking control of everybody and telling each player what to do. So we have to be careful to do that. So if you are someone who feels like he wants to control everything, pace yourself and let other players make their own decisions. That's the way I play these cooperative games. I suggest some stuff, but I just tell people to make their own choices. If you do that with this game, it is an awesome game. It is maybe not the best gateway game, but it's close to it because it's not that hard to play. I really like it. It's still my number 19, and that is Pandemic. And now, very close to his old brother Pandemic is another game by Matt Leacock, but this time he got help, probably a lot of help from Rob Daviau. This is also for 2 to 4 players, but I guess it's just best with 4 players. But you probably want to play with the 4 same people all the time. Also by Z-Man Games, of course. It is the number 1 game on Board Game Geek, so this one is the most popular game at this moment in the entire world. And I'm talking about a game that was number 10 last year. It's dropped 8 spaces, and I'm talking about Pandemic Legacy. This is season 1. There will be a season 2 in 2017. So more of this stuff coming up. Now, we haven't finished this game yet. We are playing slowly through it. We're at October, I believe. And in this game, well, you're trying to do the same as in Pandemic. You are trying to cure diseases. But there is this word legacy, of course, and legacy, well, there is a big discussion on what exactly legacy means. Let's just say this game, each decision that you make or each thing that happens is a permanent thing. Now, this goes really far because there are cards to be destroyed, there is stuff to be written on, so it goes really far, so you can only play this complete game once. Now, there are people who finish the game and still use the end board to play their normal games of Pandemic, which adds, of course, a lot more to it because the game has changed a lot. There are many surprises during the game, things that happen, rules that change, all those things. I'm not going to spoil them, of course, so you have to try it out yourself. But then again, find a group that is loyal and that wants to play through the entire game of this. Now, there is a reason. And it's number 18, so I really like this game. Don't forget that. But there is a reason why I don't always feel like playing this game. I always have a hard time. I'm always a little bit scared of this game. I don't want to mess up too hard, so that the next episodes or the next rounds will be so hard to do, and it's a strange feeling. You're really excited, you want to see what happens, and on the other side you're afraid to see what will happen, and how if you do really bad, things might be so much harder next time. There are some things that can happen if you do bad that are so hard to get over later. But then again, that's what makes this game also that awesome as it is, and that's why it's my number 18 and the world's number 1. That's Pandemic Legacy, Season 1. Alright, I just talked about the bingo system. in Karuba, where you are drawing tiles and each one plays their tile of the same number. Now this next game uses the bingo mechanic as well, but even more obvious. And it might be a controversial pick, and it was my number 18 last year, so it's even got up one spot. So I really like the game. It is awesome. It is a decent gateway game. It might be there might be a few rules that are a little bit too hard for some people, but still it is an awesome system. Everybody knows bingo, and I'm talking about the game by Hurricane Games or Alauta Pelit .fi. 2 to 6 players, so you can play with some quite some players as well, and it's designed by Paolo Mori. I'm sorry, guy. My friend Paolo, I'm sorry. It is number 669 on Board Game Geek, so it's not that popular, but still, it's a top 1000 game, so it is good. And I'm talking about Augustus, or in some countries or some versions, it is called Rise of Augustus. Very simple game. So you have a bag with tokens in it, with different symbols on them, different images, and you have these cards that you have in front of you. And these cards need different symbols to score. You have these meeples, which are legionnaires that you have to put on the symbols. So one player is the player with the bag. He draws a tile, announces the token that he draws, and each player can put one of his legionnaires on one of the symbols on his cards if he has one. As soon as you fill up a card, you have to shout Ave Caesar, and that way you tell the other players that you have scored a card. If you score a card, some cards give you points at the end of the game, some cards give you an immediate action that you can do, and that might be anything from putting more legionnaires on other cards, from taking, from even messing with other players, and so on and so on. So that's pretty cool. Now there's also these symbols of gold and wheat. That's on some of these cards that you can score. If you have the player that have the most of gold or wheat, you get the tile that gives you a bonus points for having the most of that. So you're trying to get those points as well. And there's a little bit of a push your luck to it as well, because if you are the first player to score your for example, your fourth card, you can choose to take a bonus tile with points on it, because you're as being the first player to score 4 cards. But there is also one of 5 and 6 cards out there. Now you can only take one of them. So do I take these points now already, now that I'm sure that I can get these, or do I wait a little bit longer? Now you also get bonus points if you are the first one to score 3 cards with the same different colors of provinces, or maybe score 4 different cards, because you have 3 colors of provinces and you have senators that you can score. Really cool, a little bit push your luck, most of it bingo, so very recognizable, so easy to teach. I really like it, it's always fun, and that is Augustus, my number 17 game. Okay, so after we have bingo, we still have some things where you have to draw stuff out of a bag. Now this one is a very different beast. This is a medium to heavy Euro game, so that means it's a little bit drier maybe also, but it's a really cool system. And in this game you have workers that you are drawing from a bag, and you use them in your own personal board. You put your workers down there that you drew, and you are, well, getting more workers in different, you have knights, you have seafarers, you have monks that you can get to your team. And the game is number 30 on Board Game Geek, so very popular. It is my number 16, that means it got up 1. It was my number 17 last year. A game designed by Reinder Stockhausen. It is published by DLP Games, and well, you can play this for 2 to 4 players, although there is an expansion that brings it that total up to 5, and even gives you a solo variant as well. Alright, so in this game you are trying to get workers to you, and those workers you can use, well, to build things. You want to build trade houses, you want to connect some roads, you want to score points for being smart, you want to do many things. There are events each round that might mess up your plans, but you can, during your round, make sure that you can survive those events. And you have so many choices, depending on what cards you use or what expansion you use. You have many options. Now, one downside, in my opinion, is that I believe you don't have enough excitement of which people I'm going to draw. That's the only downside. I don't think you get enough workers during the game to make it that exciting to draw the workers. So I hope maybe one of the expansions solves that. Now, telling me I'm really loving this game. I bought the fan kit, so I have the wooden pieces. I bought the expansion. I still need to get the new expansion, which seems pretty cool with some more random things. Now, this is not that random, but if you like random things, apparently the latest expansion, the Intrigue and Merchant stuff expansion, might be Trade and Intrigue expansion, that's the way it is, might be very interesting for you, and I probably pick it up later. So this is my number 16, a very good Euro game. Really love the back building aspect of it and all the other things happening in the game, and that's Orléans, my number 16. For my number 15, I will soon need the magic of editing again, and I will place a picture here of the box cover because it's a game I do not have in my collection, and that's also the first downside, or maybe the only downside of this game. I think it's not exciting enough with 2 players. That's why I don't own it. That's why if I want to play it, I borrow it from my game club. I'm talking about the game that was number 7 last year, and that was just because it was new, very exciting, and I was so hyped by it. I still like it very much. It's still a great game. Number 15. It is number 16 on Board Game Geek, so people seem to agree with this number, and it's a game for 2 to 4 players. There is a 5-player expansion if you want so, which doesn't get the best reviews. 4 is apparently more than enough. It is a game by CMON Games, cool mini or not, however you want to call it, and by the big designer Eric Lang. And I'm talking about Blood Rage, of course. Ping! There it is, Blood Rage. Now, in Blood Rage, you are in this Viking setting, and you are trying to gain control. Israel Vikings? Yeah, some Viking setting, and you're trying to gain control of certain areas each round, and you're fighting for it. You are sending troops there, you're walking around with your leader, you have ships, but you also can recruit monsters. So each turn is like this. So each round you have cards that you're going to draft, which means you get a number of cards in your hand, you choose one and you give the others to the next player, and play goes around until each player has a certain amount of cards. And these cards you're going to use for different things. You can recruit people, you can give upgrades to certain people, to your soldiers, to your leader. You can score bonus points like quests for doing some things, most of the time for controlling a certain region. And that way you're trying to score points. Now, there are many different ways to score points because you have many strategies. You can go for a strategy that gives you points if your people die and go to Valhalla and score you points for each of your soldiers, of your units in Valhalla, and that way you can go different routes. Now, I think the Valhalla strategy is called the Loki strategy. Loki is one of the gods that will help you with the cards. Now, if you have all those cards, then you probably win the game. So it's important that people know to stop you during the draft. If they see you're taking Loki cards, they really have to stop you and take some of those cards for themselves. But that being said, if you play this with people who know the game, this game is awesome. It plays really good and it's really exciting. It looks gorgeous, of course, with beautiful miniatures, and it plays it plays pretty fast as well. The flow is cool. I played it with gamers that are just above a gateway limit, and they even enjoyed it playing it. So it is not too hard of a game. And that's why it's my number 15, and that's Blood Rage. Number 14, also one of the first games that I bought 4 years ago when I got into this hobby. Now, this game is loved by people or not loved by people. There are some people who really like it and some people who just think it's nyeh. Now, I really like it. Board Game Geek says it's number 210. Last year it was my number 12, so it dropped 2 spaces just to make space for some cool games that are still to come. It is by Indie Boards and Cards. It's a 1 to 6 player game. It's a cooperative game and it's designed by Kevin Lanzing. And I'm talking about Flashpoint Fire Rescue. In Flashpoint Fire Rescue, each player is, well, a fireman or firewoman, of course, and you have this burning building. Now, if there are many expansions, and some of them are not buildings. You might have a submarine or a ship or whatever. So many expansions that are out there, and you're trying to, well, put out the fire, but most importantly, you're trying to get the victims out. So the cool thing is you have these tiles with question marks on them, and they might have a picture of a human or an animal that you want to save. Now, some of these are fake victims. You hear something and you go there, but there's no one there, and that can be bad. Now, while you're doing that, of course, fire is spreading, so you have to contain the fire. You can drive around with the fire truck and hose as many fire as you can. There are dangerous products out there that can explode when fire comes to it. There are so many cool thematic things. You have fire doors that might stop the fire but might get jammed, so you cannot go through the door. You have to break open it. You can hack through walls to get faster to a certain spot, but you need to place these black cubes on the board if you do so. Also, if a wall gets damaged, you have to place these black cubes. A wall is destroyed if 2 black cubes are on there. You can go through the wall then, but it is destroyed. And if all black cubes in the game are on the board, the house or the building collapses and you lose the game. You can explosions can kill victims, and as soon as you have 3 dead victims, you lost. Oh man, this is an awesome team. That's one of the big reasons why I really love this game. Flashpoint, being a fireman, this is one of the best teams out there, and that's why I love this game. It is exciting. Sometimes it can be hard, sometimes it can be a little bit more easy, but you can adapt difficulty very easily. And oh man, I'm so excited about this game. Still loving this so much, and that's why it's my number 14 of all time. Flashpoint Fire Rescue. Another game that dropped 2 places, and I think it was my number 3 a while ago in the first year, but it dropped now to number 13. Still loving it. A game by Alia Ravensburger, designed by my good friend, well, I don't know him personally, Stefan Feld. A game for 2 to 4 players, number 10 on Board Game Geek. So well, it's still very popular, and that's Castles of Burgundy, or the Burgen van Burgund. Now, it is quite strange that it's so high on the Board Game Geek, because this is a game that has a theme that is not inspiring, the artwork is not inspiring, the component quality is not that great, but the gameplay does it so well. Now, in this game, each player has their board with these hexes on them, and you want to place tiles of the right type on the right hexes, and so spreading your kingdom. The way you do that is each round you roll 2 dice, and those dice will determine which tiles you can get from the main board, or which tiles from your supply you can put on the board, or maybe you can use them to do some other things, like get workers that can medicate your die rolls, or get silver that allows you to buy tiles that are in the marketplace that you cannot get with the dice but only with silver. And this way you are trying to score points by placing certain buildings, by finishing certain amount of buildings in one area. And it is a really Stefan Feld game. So I already mentioned Oracle of Delphi, which wasn't a real Stefan Feld game because there are no points over there. This is Stefan Feld at his best. This game allows you to score many points in many different ways. Now, the thing that I like most is the dice rolling and the dice placement. I really love that system. You roll some dice, and these dice allow you some actions. These dice are used to make you choose what you want to do. This game is awesome. One of my first Euros that I owned, and I'm still loving this. I love his little brother, the card game, but still this one has something to it, and I'm still not sure what it is. I just wish they would do a reprint of this with maybe, I don't think the theme has to change really, but oh man, the components. This one could use a deluxe edition, and I think many people will buy it. So if Ravensburger is smart, they will do that and they will make a lot of money. On my number 13, Castles of Burgundy. Number 12. Wow, this game might as well be Castles of Burgundy's younger brother. It is a game that's less old, first of all. It is and it's not designed by Stefan Feld, but it has many similarities. Now, this game plays for 2 to 4 players. It's by CMON Games. I have the 999 Games edition, the Dutch one. It is designed by Simone, Luiani and Daniele Tascini. I think they're Italian names. It's number 33 on Board Game Geek, so for the people, Burgundy is still more popular, but still 33 is high on the list. It was my number 37 last year, so it got up 25 spots to the number 12 spot, and that is Voyage of Marco Polo. In Dutch, it is In de Voetsporen van Marco Polo, just so you would know. And in this game, you are doing, well, you have some similarities with the previous one. So each round, you roll some dice. This time not 2, but more. And those dice will tell you what actions you can do or how strong your actions can be and stuff like that. But in this game, you're trying to do also different things. You have this map of Europe and you're trying Europe and Asia maybe, and yeah, Asia as well. You're trying to move your meeple on that map to different places. That scores you resources, that scores you bonuses, that can score you points at the end of the game if you place enough trade houses on the board. You also have mission cards that you want to visit 2 different cities on the board, and if you've done that, well, you score bonus points at the end of the game. You also want to get resources to get these contracts finished. So you can get contracts that ask for different resources, an amount of resources. Maybe it asks you for something else, but if you finish a contract, you score those points at the end of the game. If you had the most contracts finished, you get bonus points at the end of the game. So as you can hear, the word points is important in this game as well. And man, the system of rolling the dice and placing them, and as soon as you take an action, if other players want to take the same action, they have to pay for it. So it gets more expensive. So if you really want to do something, you want to be there first, but then someone else might do the other action that you really want to do as well. So that will cost you money. So you have to manage your money a lot here, and money is tight in this game. Very cool game, exciting. Not that hard to play. It plays really fast as well. Well, fast, it takes a while. I think it says, let's see, 20 minutes per person. Might be right, maybe a little bit longer, but still, it feels like it goes really fast, and I really like this one. And that's my number 12, Voyages of Marco Polo. Marco Polo. Number 11 is a 2-player game, and I think that's the highest only 2-player game on this list. I believe so. If I'm wrong, then I'm wrong, but I think it is. This is a game that is a small brother of a game that we already mentioned somewhere, well, earlier. Not sure if it made the top 50, the other one, and I'm talking about Seven Wonders, and this is Seven Wonders Duel, a game also designed by Antoine Bauza together with Bruna Catala. Whoa, those 2 names have been on the list a few times. It is by Repros Productions, and it is number 8 on Board Game Geek. Wow. Last year it was my number 6, so it dropped a few spaces, and that's because it happens. Now, this game is a game in which you are drafting cards as well as you do in Seven Wonders, but you do it much differently. In this game, you have this, each round you have this kind of a pyramid of cards. So you can see some cards and some cards are turned over. You have to draft these cards, so if it's your turn, you take 1 card, you can pay for it to play it in your tableau, you can use it to build a wonder, you can use it to gain more coins, as you do in Seven Wonders a little bit. Now, if taking a card means that you open up a spot of another card, you flip that over, and maybe the other player can use that card very well because you didn't know you were going to reveal that one. Crap. Now, the big difference as well with Seven Wonders is in this game you can also win. You can win at points, but you can also win in a military way or a technology way. You have cards that give you military, and you go on a track back and forth. So you have a track that starts in the middle, and if you get some military, you go towards your opponent. Now, if you reach certain levels of military, you're going to cost the other player money. You're stealing money from him. Or maybe even if you go far enough to the end of the line, well, you win the game because you defeated your enemy. Now, you also have these green cards that are in Seven Wonders as well. But if you have a certain set, I think 6 or 7 different icons of technology, then you win the game as well. So you have to keep an eye on each other and making sure that you don't give the other player the victory by letting him be strong at one of those two. Very cool system. Now, there is a new expansion for it. It's called Pantheon. If you want to keep it lighter and you want to keep it faster, then just play the base game, which is awesome by itself. If you want to have more to think about, a little bit longer game as well, a little bit more convoluted, if you don't mind it, then the Pantheon expansion is a pretty cool expansion as well. There are some great ideas in that as well, but it makes the game a lot more thinky as it already is. This is a great, awesome 2-player game. Elisa likes this as well very much. It's always a big, giant battle between the two of us, and well, that's why it's my number 11, and that's Seven Wonders Duel. That's it, folks. The number 20 to 11 are done. Wow, that means only one thing. There is one video left to come, and that is the big one of them all, of course, my top 10 games of all time. So you might already start guessing which ones they are. Which one didn't you see? Now, beware, there are many games that I haven't played yet, so that are not there in the top 10, that you might think might be there, but I haven't played them yet. There might be even games that are on so many top 10 lists that I don't like enough. Somehow they don't do it for me, so they might be missing. So that means next time you'll see the top 10, and after that you can put in the comments. Also for this video, you can put your reactions in the comments. Tell me about these games, how much you like them or hate them. But after we've done the top 10, there will be a live episode of All Aboard where we can discuss all the games that are on the list, or more important, probably the games that are not on the list. So keep an eye on that to be sure you don't miss anything. Feel free to subscribe on to the channel so you can stay here and you can see anything arrive. I'll post, or maybe I already did post the date or end time for the live stream to look back at this top 75. Anyway, thanks for watching this part. Oh man, I'm so excited. We're going to the top 10. Finally, I would say. People are curious about it. People have been asking which games are on there, and you will find out very soon. Now, I thank you for watching this part, and I see you all in the future with the top 10. Bye-bye.